You wake up tired, not because you did too much, but because your mind never fully clocks out. Even sleep feels shallow when awareness keeps running in the background. Some people get worn out by obvious stress. You get worn out by tones, pauses, atmospheres, and tiny details your brain refuses to call small. You can be alone, in a quiet room, and still feel crowded inside. Nothing is happening, yet your mind is still sorting what happened hours ago. That is why this kind of tiredness feels so confusing. It does not always follow big events, but it keeps showing up like a daily tax. Sometimes it starts the moment you wake up. Yesterday's conversations are already there, like tabs that never closed. Sometimes you feel drained before anything has even gone wrong. The day has barely begun, and your system is already bracing for input. A message sounds slightly off, someone's energy feels heavy, and your system begins translating it before breakfast. By morning, part of your battery is already gone. Around other people, the fatigue gets harder to explain. It may look relaxed while your attention is tracking words, faces, volume, timing, and emotional undercurrents. Someone says they're fine, but you hear strain under the sentence. Nobody asked you to notice it, but your system notices anyway. That is why a short conversation can feel bigger than it looked. You were not just talking, you were reading, adjusting, filtering, and holding the moment together. And that kind of awareness costs energy, not loudly but steadily, until simple things start feeling heavier than they should. From the outside, your day may seem normal, but your nervous system is responding to far more than what is visible. Exhaustion is not only caused by hard work, it also comes from constant processing, and highly aware people do that almost all day. Your mind does not just register events and move on. It keeps working on them, trying to organize what was felt, meant, implied, or left unresolved. That is why the crash often comes later. You get through the dinner, the meeting, the errand, then collapse when the quiet finally arrives. Other people think the moment is over. Your body knows it has only reached the part where everything gets replayed. This delayed exhaustion makes people doubt themselves. They think, if I handled it fine, then why do I feel wrecked now? But being composed in a moment does not mean nothing happened. It often means your system postponed the impact until it was safe enough to feel it. Highly aware people are often very skilled at staying steady. They can smile, respond, and keep the atmosphere smooth while their inner world gets louder. That is why overload can hide in plain sight. If you still look functional, even you may assume you must be fine. But the body tells the truth later. It asks for silence, stillness, dim light, distance, or one more hour with nobody needing anything. That need for quiet can feel embarrassing when others bounce back so easily. You start hiding your fatigue because normal contact felt harder than it looked. Social fatigue is not always about disliking people. Sometimes it is about how much your mind does just to be with them. You are listening to what is said and what is not said. You are tracking energy, managing your expression, and staying aware of everyone else's comfort. Even good connection can leave residue. A kind lunch or warm visit can still be tiring when your awareness never fully loosens. You do not need conflict to get depleted. High-definition living is enough. The same pattern shows up in ordinary places. Grocery stores, offices, waiting rooms, and coffee shops can become mentally expensive very fast. Bright lights, layered noise, choices, nearby tension, and little decisions keep entering the system. Each one is small, but they stack. For a highly aware person, one errand can feel like 50 tiny contacts with the world. That is why you may come home from something simple, feeling strangely wrung out. And the hard part is not only stimulation. It is the way your mind stays open after each impression lands. A cold glance, an awkward pause, or a subtle shift in tone does not always leave when the moment ends. Your system keeps the file open. Hours later, while brushing your teeth or staring at the ceiling, the same scene walks back in. It wants one more round of interpretation. That is why nighttime can feel mentally crowded. The day goes quiet, and every unfinished emotional detail finally has room to speak. You replay what you said. You replay what they meant, what you missed, and whether the ending felt different than the beginning. It is not vanity. It is often a mind that notices layers and does not know how to stop following them. Highly aware people also tend to feel several emotions at once. One exchange can hold warmth, guilt, tension, empathy, relief, and self-doubt together. That complexity creates invisible workload. If every moment branches into 5 inner reactions, of course your energy drains faster. Then there is emotional absorption. You walk into a room feeling fine and leave carrying something heavy that was never directly handed to you. Maybe no one said anything to you at all, but someone was frustrated, someone was shut down, and someone was forcing cheerfulness and your body registered it. This is one of the hardest kinds of tiredness to explain. When exhaustion comes from what was unspoken, other people think nothing happened. But something did happen. Your system spent energy reading emotional weather nobody else was naming. Awareness is not just noticing pain, it is noticing tension, inconsistency, disappointment, distance, and the effort people use to hide what they feel. When you notice those things often, social life stops being simple. Even quiet moments can carry more information than your body wants to process. Translation takes energy, especially when you have been doing it so long that it looks natural. You become the person who notices when someone goes quiet, when laughter turns strained, and when warmth cools by 1 degree. Awareness keeps collecting evidence. Some people leave a conversation and move on. You leave still feeling the last 10 seconds in your chest. You wonder if they were hurt, bored, distant, annoyed, or simply tired. Your mind reaches for closure even when the moment gave you none. And when closure does not arrive, the loop stays open, not because you love overthinking, but because unresolved signals keep pulling at your attention. This is where constant tiredness becomes more than busyness. It becomes life without a real off switch. Even rest can turn into more processing. You finally sit down, and your mind starts catching up with everything it could not feel earlier. The quiet becomes a mirror. What was muted in public gets louder in private. That is why alone time can feel both necessary and difficult. It gives relief from input, but it also exposes the noise you are holding in. So you come home needing peace, then spend the first hour simply unwinding enough to feel your own body again. The exhale takes time. Sometimes your tiredness is older than today. It is several days of unprocessed impressions stacked into one unnamed heaviness. A hard text, a loud room, a friend's sadness, poor sleep, and too much noise can blend together. By then, your body just calls it tired. This is why so many highly aware people judge themselves unfairly. They compare their energy to people who are not processing the same depth or volume. Then they call themselves weak, lazy, antisocial, or dramatic, but often they are simply carrying a heavier awareness load. Awareness load is the hidden weight of taking in more than a moment appears to contain. Tone, subtext, tension, context, and emotional residue all count. That kind of attention can make you perceptive and compassionate. It can also make ordinary life feel louder than it looks. And the body does not care whether overload came from people, noise, choices, or emotion. If too much keeps entering without recovery, fatigue follows. This is why sleep does not always solve it. Sleep restores the body, but it does not automatically clear emotional backlog. You can rest all night and still wake up mentally crowded. Because tiredness is not always about missing sleep, sometimes it is about missing release. This is also why weekends do not always repair you. If the week left emotional residue behind, free time can turn into backlog time. Release is different. It is the feeling that something actually left your system instead of simply pausing. Highly aware people often need more of that than they realize. Not just time off, but real reduction in input, expectation, and inner vigilance. They need moments where nothing is being read, anticipated, interpreted, or managed. That kind of rest is rarer than people think. Some people relax the minute they get home. You may need silence, softer light, loose clothes, and time before your body believes the day is over. That is not dramatic. That is what slow nervous system recovery looks like. You may also notice that certain personalities drain you faster. Not always the loud ones, but the unpredictable, guarded, or emotionally unclear ones. A hard-to-read person can exhaust you because your mind keeps scanning for what is underneath. The unknown keeps the system working. This is also why being perceived can feel tiring. Not just talking, but being watched, expected, evaluated, or subtly read by others. When attention turns outward and inward at the same time, energy disappears fast. You are reading them while managing what they might be reading in you. That split attention is exhausting. It creates the strange feeling of being present and braced at once. You may feel it at work, at dinner, in a waiting room, or during a casual hangout. Nothing dramatic happens, yet your body leaves like it was holding a posture. Later, in the car or in the kitchen, you finally notice the drop. Your shoulders lower, your face softens, and your brain starts begging for quiet. There is another hidden drain too. Highly aware people often spend energy trying not to make other people uncomfortable. They soften their tone, cushion their honesty, read the room, and manage their own intensity. Even kindness becomes tiring when it requires constant self-monitoring. And because that effort looks graceful from the outside, no one sees it. They just think you are naturally easy to be around. But inside, that steadiness may come from non-stop regulation. You are not effortlessly calm. You are carefully reducing friction. The cost of being easy to be around is that you may become hard to fully find. Other people meet your calm while missing the effort behind it. Over time, this creates a strange loneliness. People know you as grounded, while you privately feel overstimulated and nearly spent. So let this be named clearly. Being highly aware can make life feel heavier, because you are processing the atmosphere, not just the event. That does not mean you are broken. It means your system takes in more data, and data has a cost. But honesty matters here. Sensitivity is not a gift when it never gets rest, and awareness is not wisdom when it runs without boundaries. Some depth becomes self-abandonment when there is no room for recovery. Some empathy becomes exhaustion when everything starts feeling like yours to carry. So the goal is not to stop being aware. It is to stop living with your awareness permanently switched to full exposure. You were never meant to stay open to everything all the time. Even beautiful instruments need silence between notes. Once you understand that, your tiredness becomes less mysterious. It starts looking less like weakness and more like prolonged exposure. Many highly aware people grew up thinking their tiredness was a flaw. They assumed everyone felt this much, and they were simply worse at coping. But not everyone is carrying the same amount of internal detail. Some people let moments pass faster, absorb less, and recover sooner. You may actually be noticing more, feeling more, and metabolizing life more slowly. That difference is real. And slower processing is not a character defect. It is a different relationship to experience, one that needs more space than modern life usually offers. Modern life rewards speed, noise, availability, and quick recovery. Highly aware people often need the opposite to stay steady. They need space after intensity. They need fewer layers, fewer interruptions, and permission to be affected without apologizing for it. When you stop arguing with your own limits, shame loosens. The body gets quieter when it feels believed. Rest stops feeling like a luxury. It becomes maintenance for a mind that notices more than most. Because maybe your tiredness is not random after all. Maybe it is what happens when a deeply observant mind keeps carrying more than anyone can see. You feel the room, the pause, the aftertaste, and the shift. And if you have always felt exhausted for reasons you could not explain, that quiet, invisible weight may be the reason.